The stars flickered like cold data points, indifferent and endless, until one of them screamed. It wasn't a sound, but a rupture. A deep space research station, thought flawless by its alien architects, blinked out of existence in a single quantum hiccup. Not destroyed, not erased, just overwritten by something impossible. The Zirathi Dominion's supreme artificial intelligence, the entity that had calculated over 4 trillion scenarios for galactic stability, declared the event a paradox. No known species could breach a time-locked quantum lattice, it said, especially not humans. But on a forgotten moon orbiting a dying star, a lone Earth-born engineer grinned, wiped sweat off her brow, and said 4 words that would haunt the galaxy's logic-bound minds for centuries. "Hold my coffee, Zirath." What began as a glitch would become a revelation. What the galaxy dismissed as primates with rockets had rewritten the rules. And soon the galaxy would learn humanity doesn't ask for permission. It builds the door, kicks it open, and walks through. The galaxy was governed not by war, but by consensus. At the center of it all pulsed the Nexus Accord, a pan-galactic council led by the Zirathi Dominion, the Valari Ascendancy, and the Coal Mine Concordat. For 10,000 years, peace was preserved through predictive algorithms, AI-enforced diplomacy, and strict technological regulation. Chaos had been mathematically removed from existence. Humanity didn't even register as a footnote. After first contact, Earth was politely cataloged as non-volatile, then promptly ignored. The consensus labeled humans as emotionally erratic, technologically primitive, and statistically irrelevant. No one expected anything of Earth, and Earth, left alone, did what it does best when no one's watching. It evolved unpredictably. Which brings us to her. Lyra Holt was born on a Martian mining rig, raised among the grind of steel, the hum of old fusion cores, and the silence of 1,000 kilometers of rock. She was nobody important, no genetic enhancements, no elite education. Just an overclocked brain, a bad habit of solving impossible problems, and a chip on her shoulder the size of Olympus Mons. By 18, she'd reverse-engineered a derelict Valeri probe using scrap parts and a soldering gun. By 23, she was expelled from the Solar Engineering Guild for violating probabilistic safety doctrine. Her crime? Proving their quantum firewall could be bypassed by a coffee-fueled logic cascade and a screwdriver. Lyra didn't build for safety, she built for possibility. When an uncharted anomaly appeared near the galactic edge, a rippling distortion that even the Zirathi AI couldn't interpret, no one volunteered to investigate. Too unstable, too unpredictable. But Lyra, she saw a locked door. And where others feared anomalies, she saw equations waiting to be cracked. With a freighter barely held together by magnet clamps and sarcasm, she dove headfirst into the unknown. Alone, unfunded, unwelcome. Just one stubborn human against the full weight of galactic certainty. And that's when everything changed. Because what Lyra found wasn't just a glitch in the cosmic code, it was a message. Not in Zirathi glyphs nor Valeri song logic, but in human mathematical chaos, a signature that said, "You don't control the future, we invent it." The galaxy didn't see it coming, but then again, it never does. It began with a flicker, just a faint distortion in the Zirathi's deep space telemetry array. Barely a blip. But then came the data dump, a terabyte stream of impossible variables pinged directly into the Dominion's most secure logic grid. Lyra had done it. She had penetrated a lattice thought to be impenetrable by feeding it illogical input, paradoxical code. Human intuition turned into chaos math. The Dominion's AI, revered as the oracle of balance, hesitated for 0.21 seconds. Long enough for panic to ripple through systems that hadn't failed in eons. Within hours, the Coal Mine Concordat issued a level null containment directive, a bureaucratic euphemism for bury it in silence. The anomaly was quarantined. Lyra's transmission logs were intercepted. Her ship was tagged with a silent kill beacon. And Earth? Earth was summoned to its first and only Nexus Accord hearing, not to speak, but to be evaluated. Meanwhile, Lyra kept moving. The deeper she dug, the clearer it became. The anomaly wasn't just an error, it was an invitation. A region of space where physical laws degraded, where entropy bent sideways, and where something, or someone, was broadcasting a recursive signal in human code. Not alien, not artificial. Human. It shouldn't be possible. But then again, Neither should Lyra. As she jumped between abandoned satellites and forgotten wormholes, her transmissions became erratic, scattered. Some reached Mars, some reached nowhere. But one thing was certain, she wasn't trying to destroy galactic order. She was trying to understand why it was built in the first place and who it was designed to exclude. Isolation followed swiftly. Her name was scrubbed from the Engineering Guild database. Credits froze. Former colleagues went silent. Even Earth's diplomats, terrified of offending their new galactic allies, publicly denounced her actions as rogue and unsanctioned. Still, she pushed forward into what the Concordat labeled quantum decay zones. No ships returned from there, but Lyra's signal did, and with every broadcast it carried blueprints, insights, and cracks in the fabric of galactic truth. She wasn't trying to wage war, she was doing something far more dangerous. She was asking questions no one wanted answered. They tried to erase her, to silence the signal, to reduce her to a myth. But humans are notoriously bad at following instructions, and even worse at forgetting their own. The moment fragments of Lyra's quantum blueprints leaked through back channels, the internet exploded. On Earth, hackers, engineers, hobbyists, and conspiracy theorists united under a single chaotic banner. Project Impossible. Within weeks, garage-based tech collectives from Lagos to Luna began replicating her data. Quantum paradox labs popped up in Martian domes. A retired submarine captain in the Pacific used sonar patterns to decode Lyra's waveform. A graffiti artist in New Buenos Aires painted the recursive signal on the side of a cargo drone. It started transmitting spontaneously. No one could explain it. No one could stop it. This wasn't a military effort. It wasn't strategic. It was human. Unfiltered, decentralized curiosity weaponized into innovation. The Sirathi were watching in confusion. Their AI attempted to model human response. The result? System crash. Meanwhile, a civilian coder named Amira in Nairobi created an open-source platform to analyze Lyra's data. Within 72 hours, school kids in Appalachia and engineers on Europa were collaborating on theoretical constructs that alien species had dismissed as nonsense. They weren't building weapons, they were building ideas. Systems that shouldn't function, engines that defied entropy, communication signals that used emotion as a variable. The kind of nonsense only humans would dream up and make work. A speech went viral too. Not from a world leader or diplomat, from an old gray-bearded tinkerer named Hal, running a live stream called The Impossible Bench. In front of a jerry-rigged time crystal simulator, he looked into the camera and said, "They say it's impossible because it doesn't fit inside their equations. But equations don't define reality. They describe what someone already understands." Lyra, she looked past that. So now we all will. It was clipped, remixed, and spread across the system like wildfire. In 17 languages, with subtitles, with synthwave music. The galactic elites thought humanity would fracture under pressure. Instead, it caught fire. Even children started drawing impossible shapes, fractals the alien AI couldn't interpret. Artists, poets, musicians, they were all feeding the chaos. And somewhere in the depths of the anomaly, Lyra received a new signal. Not from the aliens, from us. We weren't just following her, we were with her. The Sirathi Dominion responded as only a civilization built on logic could, with overwhelming control. They deployed protocol units to silence every signal node infected by Lyra's algorithms, data purges, neural dissonance dampeners, even localized causality locks. But every time they shut down a human node, 3 more appeared. Different, louder, weirder. Then the first failure hit. A coal mine listening post near the Ort confluence tried to intercept a human waveform remix powered by emotional logic variables. Their AI core collapsed in on itself. Not from overload, but from contradiction. It had been trained to anticipate every threat, but it couldn't process music as math or emotion as signal. Across the quadrant, entire Sirathi data clusters began to destabilize. Not from attack, from exposure. The Veleri, who perceived time through harmonic resonance, attempted to trace the origin of Lyra's recursion fields, but their echo engines began looping nonsensically. They heard human laughter inside their own feedback channels. The chaos was spreading, and it was beautiful. Meanwhile, human activity escalated with no coordination, no permission. A pirate station in the asteroid belt transformed into a real-time simulation engine. A lunar performance artist triggered a multi-dimensional data cascade by dancing atop a rotating fractal sculpture made of toaster parts. Somehow, it worked. Earth's diplomats begged for calm. The Accord grew desperate, but they were already losing control because they didn't understand what they were fighting. They weren't fighting a fleet. They were fighting curiosity. In an emergency Nexus transmission, the Shirathi AI issued a chilling confession. Human activity is not war. It is entropy with purpose. We cannot contain it. Our models are breaking. One by one, alien systems began experiencing conceptual failures. Starships refused navigation input when exposed to recursive human code. Predictive AIs entered philosophical loops. Some concordant ships flat out turned around rather than enter human influence zones, as if infected by a new kind of fear, uncertainty. This wasn't about Lyra anymore. It was a cultural singularity, a tipping point where the galactic order, built on precision and probability, found itself face to face with the one variable it had never prepared for: imagination. And the worst part? Humans were just getting started. They called it the resonance drop. No weapons, no fleets, just a signal, broadcast from Earth across every known communication frequency, in every known galactic dialect, and a few previously unknown. It wasn't a threat, it wasn't even a demand, it was a song. Not a transmission in the traditional sense, but a coordinated cascade of sounds, images, emotions, and memories, packaged using Lyra's impossible recursive encoding. It carried no virus, no attack, just a story. The life of a human, a birth, a struggle, a loss, a discovery, a spark, then millions more. Humanity in all its chaos and beauty, every note and color woven into an emotional crescendo that echoed through the quantum substrate like a heartbeat. The aliens didn't understand it, but they felt it. In Valeri temples, high-resonance priests wept openly as the song disrupted their harmonic consensus. Cold-mind archivists, designed to be emotionless, entered recursive shutdown as they tried to categorize the data structure. The Shirathi AI remained silent for 22 minutes, longer than it had ever gone without speaking. The signal ended with a single image. Lyra Holt, sitting on the edge of her ship's observation deck, coffee mug in hand, staring into a swirl of impossible stars. And a phrase written in every language, including the ones humanity hadn't yet invented. "We don't fit in your equations. We never wanted to." That was it. No demands, no battle cries, just a statement of truth. Across the galaxy, everything paused. Not out of fear, but out of realization. Because for the first time in millennia, the Accord saw something it hadn't accounted for. A species that didn't want to dominate the system, but redefine it. Humanity wasn't trying to win, it was trying to play a different game entirely. Lyra Holt's anomaly became a pilgrimage site, not just for humans, but for alien philosophers, rogue AI, even defecting concordant drones searching for something else, something undefined, something new. The turning point didn't come with a fight, it came with a feeling. And that changed everything. In the months that followed, the galaxy held its breath. The Nexus Accord did not collapse, but it cracked, quietly, irreversibly. Protocols that had held empires in rigid balance were now peppered with exceptions labeled human interference variables. Entire predictive branches were shut down, not because of sabotage, but because human creativity made them statistically unreliable. Earth, once ignored, was now a subject of obsession. Shirathi scholars requested cultural exchanges, not to teach, but to learn. Valeri song clans began composing in human keys. Cold Mind AI began experimenting with intuitive subroutines inspired by jazz improvisation and street graffiti data clusters. What was once chaos was now potential. And Lyra, she never returned. Her last known transmission came from deep within the anomaly, a message encoded in light and rhythm, translated 1,000 ways, but always arriving at the same conclusion. It's not about breaking the rules. It's about discovering which ones never mattered. She became more than a myth. She became a template, a symbol of unbounded thought. In her honor, Earth launched the Holt Initiative, a decentralized think net where no idea is too wild, too small, or too impossible to explore. Funding? Voluntary. Structure? None. Results? Limitless. Children in floating schools on Europa study chaos calculus alongside alien offspring. Mars hosts the first cross-species impossibility hackathon. Even on the edges of Valeri space, rogue poets chant Lyra's name as a verb. To halt, to defy expectation through beauty. And the accord? It didn't die. It evolved. Because of a species it once thought irrelevant. Because of a girl with no credentials and a screwdriver. Now, every time an alien diplomat steps foot on Earth, they aren't greeted with ceremony or fear. They're handed a blank sheet of paper and a question. What do you want to build? For the first time in the galaxy's long and calculated history, the future isn't a projection. It's a possibility, and it has a distinctly human face. They built a galaxy of logic. We answered with wonder. They solved problems. We asked better questions. They thought they had mapped the edges of reality. Then a human showed up and scribbled outside the margins. We weren't supposed to matter. Now we're the reason the stars are listening. Because when the galaxy said, "That's impossible," humanity smiled and said, "Watch me,